How's it going, everybody? Brett and Briggs here again, showing you guys another installation video for a part on this pellet stove right here. Dad, what do we got on the docket for today?
I tell you what, as always, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be showing you how to change the exhaust fan on this Quadra-Fire CB1200 freestanding pellet stove.
Let's do it.
Okay, here are the tools that you will need in order to install the new exhaust fan on this Quadra-Fire CB1200 pellet stove. You can use an impact along with a Phillips adapter, or you can use a standard Phillips screwdriver like this, wire strippers, crimpers for your male and female connections like so, and a high heat silicone for your gasket. Most importantly, prior to working on your pellet stove, unplug your stove from your outlet. In addition, in the back of this CB1200, you can unplug it right here as well. You have the whole wire in your hand, no power whatsoever. Now you can begin to work on your pellet stove. Okay, facing the stove in your home on this side, which would be the left side, is where the exhaust motor is. Both these panels open. This is your top, and this is the bottom one, like so. We're going to raise this up so you can get a better view of it. Up, and away. Now we're going to turn it like this so you can see exactly what we're going to operate on. It's that one right there. That's the exhaust fan. Two side panels. It's recommended to take them off so you can have direct access to the exhaust fan. Just pull it back. Sometimes they stick a little bit, and take them off like so. There's the first one. The second one, it may stick a little bit, just a little finesse. That one came out real nice. Set it aside. Now we have direct access to work on this exhaust fan. Let's get to work.
So now that we have full access to the exhaust fan, we can start getting to work. So before we start drilling and everything else, you can see through the use of all the dust accumulation right here. Might be a little hard to locate all the screws. So a lot of times we'll just take a paintbrush like this, we'll get in there and kind of clean up things just to see where everything is. You can start to see the screws show up there on top and on the bottom. And as I'm cleaning this, before I get to the screws, I can start disconnecting the wire connections, and no worries, you're all good because we disconnected power earlier. And I can kind of set this to the side, out of the way. And I can continue doing the whole brushing sequence to get it ready for me to tackle with my screwdriver. So at this point, I'm going to start removing the screws using the extension, Phillips, and my torque wrench. So a lot of times I like to start from the bottom and slowly, gingerly, going one by one.
How many screws are around that plate?
So they typically range in just about 6.
Okay.
Some stoves might vary, but usually 6 is the magic number. And again, you want to keep organized. Keep your screws in one spot. And just a couple more. And then right here, with the last one, I like to take my other hand here to support the motor itself. Because once that gets loose, I'm going to set this to the side, keep my left hand on the motor. Again, with my right hand, keeping the screws all organized. Then I'm going to use both hands to slowly remove the old exhaust fan with gasket and all. And there we have it. So kind of an added tip of what you can do once you have this exhaust motor removed is you'll have full access within the snail cam shell and kind of within the actual exhaust tube itself. So what you can do, a number of times ash will accumulate in this area. So while you're at it, you can just have your vacuum ready and get in there while you're doing your exhaust motor repair. So one of my favorite things I like doing is doing a comparison. So right here we have both exhaust fans. You got your old and you got your new. And you guys can see clearly the differences of what time will do to these fans. So before we get into the whole nitty-gritty of replacing this fan, you do not want to forget your gasket. So a lot of the times when we're installing this gasket, there's a little trick we like to do. So if you try to attempt to install this like this and you're going in, you can kind of see how this gasket will fall as so. So a lot of times, or I should say more of the newer times of what we've learned, is you can take this high heat sealant like this and you can add a little bit on the metal plate here, and then you can press this sealant on there while aligning the holes, which we recommend. These ones right here, there are 6 of them, uniform. You line those holes, those oval ones, with the straight one on the gasket as so. And sometimes the gasket's not all uniform, you might have to move it around. But once you set that with the sealant and it's all good, you wait about 10 minutes. Then when you're doing the installation, you won't have the headache of this thing falling down. So another heads up thing I wanted to go over with you guys is the actual wire connection. So these new fins, as you see here, they'll come as so like this. Now I removed this one just to show you. So they come pre-connected. They usually will have either 2 females or 2 males already connected to the wire, and you'll have the spare of the opposites by. This is so if you needed to change both connections or just one connection because of what is on your stove here, you have the option too. Now to do that, you'll need a pair of wire strippers, and handy, the more heavy duty they are, wire crimpers. So for this stove right here, on the new fan, we automatically have 2 females, but unfortunately, on the stove, we have 2 females. So you'll either need to do the replacement of males on either the fan or the stove right here. So to keep things uniform, we recommend replacing it on the fan wires rather than the stove wires themselves. Unless if these wires are getting old because of heat or anything else, or the connections are bad, we tend to like to focus more on the new rather than the wires in the stove, just to kind of keep things more OEM. And then also another thing you want to be heads up for is if you start cutting the wires in the stove and you start shortening them, you may run out of distance for connecting wires, and then you might have to do even some more wire splicing. So real quick, for people who are unfamiliar with the whole wire splicing and crimping process, we'll do a quick demonstration. So right here, we'll get your wire strippers, which will have the different sizes here, and you'll have your cutting piece right here. So I'm gonna go over, I'm gonna go to both of them, cut, removed, as so. I wanna find the right size here. Sometimes it's a little touch and feel. But for this one, I'll go right about there, and I'll press, and I'll go back and forth, and off. So now that you have exposed wires, you want to make sure they're together, as so. And time to crimp the new ones on. So when you put them in, you want to make sure they go in nice and easy. Make sure they're all threaded pretty tight together. You want to give it a good squeeze. Make sure that is tight. And we'll do the same thing for the other. It's important to make sure all those are straight and in line, because if you got some frayed out, it's not going to go all the way in, and you can have some wires exposed, which is one of the last things you want to do in a pellet stoves. Exposed wires, you'll get some grounding, you get blown fuse, and a not so fun day. So right then and there, your female connections are gone. You have the male connections on there, and your exhaust fan is now ready to be installed. So over here, we have our completed exhaust fan, and we're gonna do some double checks. So right here, 2 male ends on the fan, 2 female ends on the stove. So these will connect. Now, I wanna leave them unconnected for now, just because I wanna have some more room. I want to make sure I got everything ready, because when I do this, I don't want to forget something and have to walk away, because if I have to walk away, I'm going to have to reset this whole process again. Here we have our screws, we have light so we can see, and then we have our Phillips driver. So right here, I'm going to gently align the exhaust fan, the holes, and the gasket.
That flashlight's pretty bright, son.
This fat flashlight is a little bright, and I apologize to you guys for a little bit of glare. These holes sometimes can be a bear to find, even though if you line it all up, new parts to old parts, it takes maybe a little bit of sleuthing. So as you can see, I'm going one by one, and I thread by hand to make sure they all go in. And you know what? You may have a problem of one hole maybe not being your friend, and that is okay. A lot of times I'll take a driver like this, and handy, be able to find that hole, keep it there, and hand thread it. Find that hole. Sometimes I'll do a combo here. And again, I don't want to tighten it all the way, but just have it there. So this is a little bit of a patience process. But once the more of them you get in, the easier the rest will follow.
So you use that little screwdriver to make sure the hole was there, and then you're putting the screw in.
Exactly.
Okay. And I think it's really important. Briggs has got the Nebo light, flashlight, which we use a lot, and just to illuminate the area, and so it makes it user-friendly for you to make the repair. He's gingerly just going around that faceplate and tightening those screws.
As you can see, any either Phillips, flathead, star, whatever driver's nice, you just want to make sure that diameter is about the same for that hole. Now that gasket, it's going to preform once you tighten this all down. And once it tightens it all down, it will start to develop that nice and tight seal to keep that exhaust smoke in. Now right here, you saw how I started near the bottom at first. I'll save the bottom for last. Now the reason why is you can see if I try to do this right at first and this was not holding up by itself, you can see how much of a headache it would be because it would keep falling down. So right there, I pre-threaded all the screws. So at this point, I want to push the motor and the seal towards the sail cam shell and gingerly tighten around.
But not too tight, right?
No, you don't want to do too tight. You want a good, nice, even seal. And just for kicks, I'll go about 3 times around, checking each one. I want to make sure if I double tap that. Okay, I did. So you saw me go once, I did twice, and then I'll go a third just to be sure. So right there, that's final. But again, not too tight. Once you get too tight, you run the risk of stripping. And once you start that process, your job's gonna extend a little bit. So right there, it's all tight, it's all sealed. And to make sure the fan's in a good spot, it's spinning freely. So with it all put together, we can then save the connections right here. And again, you wanna watch this. So with the female end on my left and the male end on my right, you can see the male end with that tab in the middle. Now, a lot of times why I really watch this, because I want to make sure that male end tab goes in the center. what I've seen done is sometimes this male end tab will get tucked either up above or down below. And even though if you might get these connections together, this connection is not connecting anything and you're gonna get no power. So as you see it go through, the connection's made solid here. I'm gonna double check on the other side. Good. And right then and there, I'll tend to tuck the wires back here, or if need be, if you want to get fancy, you can get a zip tie, and you can zip tie these wires either together or kind of to the side. You just want to make sure these wires are not pressed up against the hot surfaces. If these wires are pressed up against these hot surfaces, and after a while, this outer coating will start to melt, and then once you lose that outer coating, and once you have wire to metal contact, you're going to get a short, and then you're going to have to do another repair. Well, right there, guys, it's replaced. All right, everyone, that's it. Hopefully you found this video helpful.
You know, Briggs did a wonderful job installing this new exhaust motor in this Quadra-Fire CB1200 pellet stove. Please help us out, share, like, subscribe, and we're going to see you on the next video. Thank you very much.
See you, everybody. Thanks again.